young, young Sam.
You don't have to stop. It's my favourite time of the month. I know I'm going to get called young.
Well, compared to me, you are young. Well, Lewis and a few of you, yeah. So anyway, you are young.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay, well, I'll stop sharing, Sam. It's good to have you on the call. We really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
You should be able to share your screen and your knowledge and wisdom, Sam.
I will do my very best as always. Let me know when you can see the screen, okay?
Yeah, I can see it perfectly. Thank you.
Marvelous, good. So yeah, thanks, Chris, and hi to everybody. As you can see, Chris, you're not going to get any cats interrupting today because I'm actually in the London office. So yeah, no cats today, but Engin's sitting opposite me. So instead of cats watching me, I've got my business partner, so I better be on top form tonight. So yes, as Chris said, my name's Sam Norris, co-founder and owner of Grand Union Finance. So we specialise in helping property investors and developers in particular. We do the odd residential mortgage and things like that, but probably 80%, I would say, of our clients are all sort of property professionals. So as I've said many times before, there's a multitude of ways that you can get in touch with me. My number for the easiest way, probably email address, and then I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Grand Union Finance also has its own pages on all of those platforms as well, so you can always search for that too for a more professional type of content. Not saying that mine isn't, but I try and keep it a bit more relaxed. So what we're going to talk about today, we'll kick things off with a bit of a mortgage market update. There's been a few changes and a few things to run through that I think are of particular interest. We'll then talk bridging and development finance. In particular, certainly a few changes from last month we've noticed, and actually that part of the market we're seeing is really blowing up in the run up to Christmas. A lot of new inquiries, particularly on the development finance side, which is great to see. Then I want to run through something that I think a lot of people do not know, which is all about how why interest rates, when it comes to bridging, aren't necessarily the be-all and end-all. And I'm going to run through a really interesting example that we've been working on over the last couple of weeks that will highlight why this is the case. And then we'll finish things off, I should say, with a Q&A at the end. So hopefully I'll have a bit of time to answer your questions. Let's start with the mortgage market. So we are noticing that on the whole, lenders are probably, if anything, increasing their rates ever so slightly. I think this is more to do with capacity rather than anything else, because as we've seen and as I've mentioned in previous presentations over the last probably 2 months, we have seen a steady increase in application numbers, and certainly lenders are starting to really struggle. And a really good way of sort of stopping new applications is to increase your rates ever so slightly, which is what some lenders are doing. However, we are seeing loan to values creep up as well. We found out the last couple of days that NatWest in particular have come back and offering 90% loan to value residential mortgages. And as I think I've said on previous presentations as well, what happens in the residential market sometimes can lead into the buy-to-let market as well. So if loan to values are creeping up in the residential market, chances are that might flow into the buy-to-let market come the beginning of next year potentially. So watch this space. As I mentioned previously, lenders are really struggling when it comes to applications at the moment. In fact, we've actually heard that a few are threatening to stop new applications in the run-up to Christmas, which we haven't seen outside of a lockdown for a long time. Probably have to go all the way back to the credit crunch, the last time that happened. So yeah, we've in particular heard Vida in the last few days have mentioned that they may well be stopping taking in new applications purely because they just can't even handle the workload that they currently have, let alone taking on anything else. In fact, we've seen that lenders are taking as long as 34 working days to get from application to having the underwriting signed off, which is absolutely ridiculous. And again, I thought that it was ridiculous when Kent, back in just after we had the Brexit vote were having turnaround times of 16 working days to get to offer. I thought that was bad. But now we're seeing that this particular lender, which again is Vida, so I'm sorry if anyone is partial to Vida, giving them a bit of a hammering tonight. They're the ones that are taking 34 working days to get to application to sign off, and then, and this is absolutely outrageous, I think, are taking 16 working days to, when a case is actually signed off by an underwriter, to it then being offered, actually the physical offer being issued and sent out to the client, to us and the solicitor. That is over 3 weeks. It's absolutely nuts, but it's typical of what's going on in the market at the moment. But there's always a silver lining, and there are some lenders out there that, because they have the infrastructure, are seriously taking advantage of the upturn in applications, and they are still able to get offers out quickly, to underwrite cases quickly. And this was shown actually last week when we got an offer on a buy-to-let purchase in 6 working days. Which was incredible, and the lender there was Precise, who I have to admit I've given a hammering in the past for their service standards, but I can't quibble at the moment. They're doing a fantastic job. So what we're saying to a lot of clients at the moment is that the speed in which you need to complete your transaction is probably becoming one of, if not the most important factor when picking a lender at the moment, because the disparity between those that are doing it quickly and those that are doing it very, very slowly is so massive that it could be the difference between you actually completing a transaction at all, or if you're refinancing, hitting your deadline for when your fixed rate comes up. So it's really, really important now more than ever to think about what lenders' service standards are, and not just to go in rate chasing, which is what we find a lot of our clients, unfortunately, come to us looking to do. But at the moment, speed is massively important. So bridging and development finance, as I said before, we are seeing a massive increase in the number of inquiries that we're getting for this type of finance, which I think is showing that, number one, our clients are really looking to purchase property at the moment, which is good. Investors and developers are coming back to the market in droves. But we are finding that we're still pretty much limited. Well, we can get 75% gross loan to value lending, but in reality, most lenders are restricting to 70, or in fact, even 65 or 60. So loan to values are a little lower than we've seen previously. We actually had an inquiry today for somebody that wanted to borrow 80% loan to value on a bridge. And I had to look across the room, and Engin had to try and keep his laughter in, because it's just not happening, not going to happen at the moment. So realistically, 70% is what we're looking at. But we can look at, on development finance loans, up to 70% of the GDV as well. So for those of you that don't necessarily know, development finance is split into 2 tranches. Two sections, should we say, one that covers the purchase and one that covers the cost of the works that you're going to be doing, the development tranche. Now, in reality, and not getting too technical, if you need to borrow 70% of the GDV, chances are the deal may well not stack up, but there are lenders out there that are going to 70% if you do need to leverage as high as possible. Interest rates are holding steady. Below 50%, we have seen interest rates as low as 0.42%. Now, that's going to be for something incredibly vanilla, very, very low risk, lots of experience, and probably with a lender where you don't need to do things particularly quickly. So they are available, but as I'll talk about later, the interest rate isn't necessarily the most important thing, but they're not doing too badly. If we're looking at the sort of the top end, 70-75% loan to value, around the 0.71% mark is certainly possible. Our most recent deal that we've done was at 0.73. So not too bad at all in reality. What we are finding, and this, to be honest, this has been a bit of a feature for quite some time now, really, is that lenders still are moving away from ground up and large single unit developments, especially in the southeast. The appetite's pretty low for that type of asset or that type of project. Ground up, has a lot of risk attached to it anyway, and in a market where lenders are trying to be as risk averse as possible, it makes sense that they're going to be moving away from it. Large single unit developments, purely just in terms of where the market is, it's very, very, very busy below 500,000, but above a million, it's still, it's not as easy to shift things at the moment as it has been. So, we had a conversation with a client recently who was trying to sell a property at 2.1, and his agent actually told him not to bother putting it on the market because he wouldn't get anywhere near that at the moment. So that was a case, unfortunately, that we couldn't progress it, which was a bit of a shame. The most important thing when it comes to these types of development projects is experience and a clear exit strategy, both very, very important. And when I say exit strategy, I mean how we're going to pay the loan back. Also, another thing to be mindful of, lending below 100,000 is pretty scarce, especially if we're trying to get a pretty high loan to value. So we get quite a lot of these inquiries where maybe it's first, second or third time investors looking potentially for cheaper properties up north to dip their toe in the water of being property investors, but unfortunately they're the ones that are getting wrapped. Unfortunately, lenders, they do look at their margins. The same amount of work goes into a loan at 50,000 that it does at 500,000. In all reality, and so be prepared to pay higher interest rates when it comes to these sorts of bridging loans. Anywhere between 1 and 1.45% we're seeing at the moment. I sent terms out to a client that was at 1.25% today, and that was for a full 54 grand loan, I think it was, gross, or net, I should say, sorry. So yeah, just be prepared for that. But what I wanted to move on to next was an example of something we've been working on recently, which really highlights the fact that rates aren't necessarily the be all and end all when it comes to determining which is going to be the best bridging loan for you. So how that interest is actually calculated is going to make a massive difference potentially to the cost of the funds. Obviously as well, this is going to make a big difference depending on how long you're taking out the loan for. But if we just keep to how it's calculated at the moment, I can show you an example shortly. Basically what we're looking at here is simply calculated interest, or rolled interest as we call it, versus retained or deducted interest. And lenders won't necessarily tell you how they are calculating their interest. They will just supply you with heads of terms and show you what a net loan would be. But it's really important to understand the difference between the two. So retained interest, effectively what happens is the interest is charged on the base, is based on the gross loan before the interest is deducted. And simple interest is calculated on the net loan. So this means that the net loan will be higher. And the reason for that is that when we look at retained interest, when you think about it, if the interest that you're paying is based on the gross loan that includes the interest, you are effectively paying interest on interest. And when you look at simple interest or rolled interest, the interest is calculated on the net loan, meaning you're not getting your interest compounded. Now, that might all sound pretty complicated. So let's look through an example to show the difference. This is genuinely a case we've just been looking at in the last week or so. So the purchase price on this particular project is 800,000. We're looking at a 70% gross loan on the bridging element. There is a development finance element to this, but I wanted to keep it simple because that's not what we're really talking about here. It's about the calculation of the interest rate. 70% gross, 560,000. Okay. So let's look at what it would look like with the simple rolled interest. The monthly interest rate is 0.71%. The net loan is 477,861, and I've just realized I put these the wrong way around. It should be the other way around, so I'll come back to this at the end. So the first one should be the deducted interest. So the deducted interest is with a monthly interest rate of 0.71, and that left us, once all the interest and fees were deducted from the loan, of a net loan of 477,861. When we looked at the rolled interest, we actually got a slightly higher interest rate from another lender at 0.73. I know the difference isn't massive, but hopefully this highlights the point. Higher interest rate And the same gross loan, incredibly, the net loan was 527,774, a massive difference. This means that even with a higher interest rate, we got a net figure of 49,913 more by looking at the simple rolled interest instead of the deducted interest. So that's why it is so important to understand the difference between the two, because you could actually get two lenders that offer you the same rate, and you won't necessarily understand the difference between the two. But here is the difference. So hopefully that was stimulating, and that will hopefully bring a few questions my way. I'm ready to get sort of put on the spot talking about this interest in a bit more here. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, more than happy to answer any now.
Thanks, Sam. That was that was stunning, really. I'll just open it to the floor, really. If anyone's got any questions, you're welcome to come off mute, or just put a question in the chat. That would be great.
I should add as well that I'm looking forward to Jay's presentation after this. I've read Jay's book and it's amazing. So anyone that's looking forward to Jay's should definitely get a copy on Amazon while you're waiting.
You didn't know there's a test at the end of Jay's talk on the book, Sam, so you really shouldn't have said that.
Ah, damn, sorry, Jay. I thought I was just helping you out with a bit of marketing.
Any questions for Sam on the mortgage side?
Might be a first.
So the whole bit about simple versus rolled interest, I know you had the headings around slightly the wrong way.
Sorry, that was the typo from me.
I thought it was a deliberate mistake to make sure we're awake, Sam.
No. I always just assume you're asleep. That's why.
So, do you think the lenders are making it clear enough whether they're using the rolled or the simple interest?
No, I'm not. I don't actually. I'm people that know me will know I defend lenders a lot because I think on the whole they get a bad rap. But actually with this, I think they could do a lot better and make it a lot clearer. We do find actually that when lenders are doing rolled interest, they tend to write rolled in their heads of terms, but they won't necessarily write retained or deducted interest when they're doing it the other way around. So it's almost like they know what's what, and most lenders will do one or the other. There's probably only one or two lenders I can think of that will do one. They'll do either or, but what they tend to do is, without getting too technical, is they will, with their rolled interest, they will tend to reduce the overall loan to value anyway to sort of keep the overall amount down. So they can be a bit sneaky like that. Bridging lenders are great on the whole, but one thing that does tend to let them down a little bit is they can be a bit sneaky with this kind of stuff. And it does make me laugh when I have these conversations with lenders and just say, how can you possibly compound interest on interest? That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
So would you recommend it something? Chris, sorry, can you turn you? Sorry.
Anyway.
I've got a bit of feedback. Oh, Chris is huffing at me now.
Go on then.
Would you recommend this is something we actually ask the lender? You know, because I've never heard of this before. So if we were going through a broker, would we ask the broker? And if we were going direct to a lender, it's something we'd ask, and we can expect an answer, or will they waffle?
Yeah, absolutely. They lenders are very open about it if you ask, because if you ask the question, it means you're clued up enough to understand it. And if you're clued up enough to understand it, there's no point trying to pull the wool over your eyes because you know what you're talking about. So it's really, maybe I'm being a little cynical here, which is not like me. But yeah, I don't necessarily think lenders are trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, but people will get away with what they can get away with. But yeah, certainly if, you know, I know that a lot of investors will have their favoured lenders that they'll go back to time and again, and so it's always worth asking that question when they're doing it, because, as I said, this that particular example that I gave, it is a live example. There's a development aspect to it as well, but yeah, I just it's the first time in a long time that I've seen it such a stark difference between the two, based on, and also the fact that, okay, I know that one interest rate was only slightly higher than the other, but the fact that actually the higher interest rate did work out cheaper. We actually negotiated down. I was a bit naughty, and I told them that we had terms at 0.71, and they initially gave us 0.77, and they said the lowest we can get to is 0.73. And then once they sent out the terms, I said, oh well, the other one was on deducted interest anyway, so I was a bit naughty. But I've got to do what I can for my client, get it down as low as I possibly can. So yeah, originally it was a 0.77, and it still netted a higher amount at 0.77.
Yeah, that's interesting. The other thing, the other major takeaway for me was the transaction time, and I wonder whether you're going to get to the point that lenders will sort of advertise the fact that maybe work to some sort of service level agreement to turn the applications around, but actually charge more, either in fees or interest. Do you see that happening? Because obviously transaction times are really critical to investors and can mean the difference between securing a deal and not.
I don't think we're going to have like a dual pricing structure or anything like that, or dual fee structure, because I think that would involve lenders having to take time out of, sorting current applications out to try and put together a whole new, not just a whole new product range, but a different type of product range as well. And I just think that they don't have the time to do it. But no, lenders that have good turnaround times are certainly using that to advertise it to brokers, because at the moment, whereas, I mean, we get emails every single day from lenders updating us on various different things, I'm finding that most of them at the moment, instead of being about interest rates or new products, it's about service levels, and especially advertising that their service levels are good.
Yeah. I suppose it's are the lenders, have they furloughed lots of people, or is it purely the volume of applications?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you something now that I don't know if this is actually meant for the general public, but and I have given them an awful rap today, which is Vida. Do you know they've currently only got three underwriters working in the entire lender at the moment?
Wow.
Which is just.
How many would they normally have, Sam?
Probably about 30 or 40.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Which is why they're massively struggling. But this is what frustrates me is lenders don't seem to learn from their mistakes. I don't know whether I'm unique in what I do as a broker, but if I know that I just don't have the capacity, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I have a business partner so we can feed off each other. But if I don't have the capacity to get back to a client or do a certain job in a certain time, I tell them that. And so I learn from the errors that I've had previously. But lenders don't seem to understand that they've got problems. That they've done this before, where they've just put out products that it's obviously going to entice a lot of interest, but don't have the back office to be able to cope with it. For me, that doesn't make any sense at all, just in terms of business, let alone, talking about lending. So it does frustrate me a little bit, but, they'll always say, well, it's chicken and egg, isn't it? They want to get the deals in. They've got to put their pricing accordingly to get those deals in. But then, do they improve their service standards first and then try and get the deals in, or do they get the deals in and then try and improve their service standards afterwards? There is a catch-22 element to it, I suppose.
Yeah, are you finding certain lenders are consistently poor or consistently good, or is it just sort of variable? I noticed you said Precise, but we're fairly good at the minute, but then it sounded like Precise had previously been quite poor, so.
Yeah, it does change quite a lot. And look, this is quite a difficult part of our job, is staying on the pulse with as many lenders as possible. Because obviously the thing is that if lenders are offering good rates and good service standards, then we're going to put the majority of our recommendations are going to go to those lenders, which means that maybe our finger comes off the pulse a little bit with the other lenders, and we're reliant probably for the information that these lenders are giving us by way of updating us on service standards, which we might not always see, because if we actually checked today, and between me and Engin, we've got nearly 500 emails today. So within those, we're seeing these service updates. We're not always going to see this, because obviously we're going to prioritize the emails from clients, etc. So it's hard sometimes to know who's doing what, when, and how, but it does change, and it changes quite rapidly, because going back a month, Precise weren't doing well at all. But as I said, we got that offer in 6 working days. But then, having said that, we're fortunate. I've got Ruby, our operations manager. She's basically our own in-house underwriter, so she underwrites all our cases before we even submit them. And a lender like Precise will prioritize a case like that. So if a broker sends over a case to a lender like Precise, and it's really poorly packaged and not pre-underwritten, it goes to the bottom of the queue. I know what they're like. Lots of other lenders are like that. Fleet are like that. Foundation are like that. Kent Reliance are like that. So it's just the importance actually of doing a broker's job properly, comes to the fore with lenders like that. Other lenders, like your Vidas, State Bank of India, are taking a long time at the moment, but they outsource their underwriting to a third party, so that's a different problem altogether. Realistically, with these lenders, it doesn't matter how well you prepare a case to send, or an application to send to a lender, it's not going to make too much difference. It's still going to be poor. So it swings and roundabouts, really.
I suppose a bit of an advert for you, as well, and all brokers really, Sam, is that it's that having that up-to-date market knowledge, which is really valuable to us as investors, really. So that's all very good. Okay, that was as always, Sam. We're very grateful for you coming on the calls, and thank you for that. That was really good.
No problem. Thanks, guys. I'm going to stick around for Jay, because I'm hoping he's going to tell the story of his first ever deal.
Oh, well, you set him up now, Sam. You set him up now. Okay. I'll really grateful for Sam, but I'm very grateful that Jay Howard has found some time in his busy schedule to come and talk to us tonight about property auctions. So Lisa and I have been looking at property auctions and have bought in property auctions for probably about 3 or 4 years now, and we did have a fleeting appearance on Homes Under the Hammer, but so no autographs tonight, guys. But Howard, Jay's certainly an expert in this field, so I'm really pleased, and to prove that I have actually not only got the book, Jay, but I've actually read the book as well. I'll hand over now to Jay. You should be able to unmute, and you should be able to share your screen, Jay. So good evening.